Hey everyone, what's going on? Mr. Harvey here. Let's continue our lecture on the age of exploration. So, in the previous lectures, we've been discussing the various causes to the age of exploration and colonization, the important countries, first Portugal. In the last lecture, we talked about Spain. Today, I want to talk just a little bit about some of the economic developments, social, political developments during this time, as well as some of the other countries they're going to get involved in some of the various rivalries that we're going to be seeing during the age of exploration and colonization. Now, one of the first things that I want to talk about is mercantilism. Mercantilism is going to be a predominantly economic, political, social philosophy that is really going to rise during this time 1500s, 1600s, 1700s. We'll see mercantilism kind of go away with the rise of capitalism during the Enlightenment. Um, Mercantilism, ladies and gentlemen, is super important for us to understand. I'm going to go into more depth about mercantilism when we really discuss this Atlantic economy in chapter 8, but I want to introduce it, okay? Mercantilism, ladies and gentlemen, is a economic, but it also has social and political implications. Um, an economic philosophy that where the government, okay, aka these powerful monarchies um, that we're going to be seeing that rise during this time, control the economy. And it's an economic philosophy where you have a colonizing country, the mother country, the European countries like Spain and Portugal, um, really exploiting the colonies and using the colonies for economic gain. And this is where we see the colonizing countries, the mother countries, taking raw materials out of the colonies, taking these raw materials, bringing the raw materials back to the mother countries, back to Europe, producing a good, okay, and then kind of selling that good to the colony, selling that good to Europe and other foreign markets. A really good example of this can be with cotton. For example, in various colonies, a mother country can, tell the colonies they want the cash crop to be cotton. They're going to produce lots of cotton in the colonies. The mother country is going to take all that cotton, bring it back to Europe, produce textiles and clothes, and sell it to the colony, sell it to Europe, sell it to other foreign markets. So this idea of mercantilism, and what's really important about mercantilism is it's the government that's controlling the economy. The government has absolute control over the economy. This is going to be different when we see capitalism, uh, you know, become the dominant economic system and philosophy, where we see private business kind of dominate the economy. So, mercantilism, okay, and we're going to talk more about that later. But this is where the government controls the economy and where the colonies, okay, kind of work for the mother country. They're being exploited at the expense of the mother countries. Okay, all right, and this is just a chart that kind of talks about some of the and illustrates some of the raw materials, resources, fur, fish, timber, tobacco, rice, silver. This was just a system where we're going to see the colonies provide raw materials for the mother country, the European colonizing countries. Um, and the system is going to be really dominant during the 15th, 16th, 1700s. We'll see it go away with the rise of capitalism. Okay, and we'll see this a little bit later in chapter 8 when we talk about it, and we're going to go much more in depth when we talk about it in chapter 8 when we really discuss the Atlantic economy. Okay, now a really important economic development during the age of exploration, especially for the Spanish, is mining. Okay, mining. The Spanish are going to be the miners. Okay, the Portuguese are going to be, all about cash crops, especially sugar. The Spanish will cultivate cash crops as well, sugar, okay, included. But the Spanish were really after precious metals, gold and silver. Um, Gold and silver, the mining that we're going to see in the New World, in New Spain, in the Spanish colonies, are going to account for 25% of the crown's total income. Um, we're going to see in Peru the world's richest silver mine, okay? And we're going to see with all these precious metals, there's going to be kind of this golden age for Spain. And we'll talk about a little bit about that in chapter 4 under Philip II. But one of the things that we're going to see with this vast influx of precious metals in Europe is inflation. Now, does anybody know what inflation is? All right, kind of maybe press pause. You can Google it, look it up, and think about it. And we're gonna talk about how all this mining is going to lead to inflation in Europe. Kind of pause for a second and think about it. All right, let's unpause. One of the reasons why we're going to see a massive amount of inflation in Europe due to all this mining is because if there's more gold and silver, there's an influx of gold and silver, all right, the currency, okay, we're going to see it's going to be worth less. Also, prices are going to rise because, well, there's more gold and silver. People can charge higher prices because there's more gold and silver around, okay, in circulation, if that makes sense. If you have trouble understanding that, we'll talk about it a little bit in class, okay? But with all this influx of gold and silver into Europe, we're going to see prices rise, basically because people can charge more because there's more gold and silver, okay? All right, all right, and you can see, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at this, all right? The just the amount of gold and silver coming into Europe, all the treasure, okay, the value. Pretty incredible. Okay, let's move on. All right, now another important development that we're going to see during the uh, early age of exploration, 1494, is the Treaty of Tordesillas. This is really important, and we're going to see this treaty um, uh, between Spain, between Portugal, even the papacy is going to be involved in the negotiations of this treaty, really to prevent any conflict coming with the acquiring of territory and the colonization of the Americas. Okay, this was to solve territorial disputes diplomatically and to secure territory diplomatically. It's going to divide the new world between Spain and Portugal. Now, obviously, not everyone is going to kind of abide by this Treaty of Tordesillas. We're going to see England get involved, France get involved. Okay, the Dutch will be getting involved. All right, this is a north-south line. We'll go back to the map and kind of look at it. Where Spain got territory west of the line, most of the Americas, and Portugal is going to get territory east of the line, Brazil and claims in Africa and India. Okay, Portugal is also going to, from this treaty, acquire exclusive rights to the slave trade, and that's going to be very important because control of the slave trade is vital to mercantilism. It's going to be vital to the cultivation of cash crops. We're going to see that the rights to the slave trade switch hands a couple times. Portuguese will have it, the Dutch will have it, the British will have it. Okay, and we'll be referencing that a little bit in future lectures. Okay, let's go back and look at the map. So we're going to see this is the treaty line right here. This kind of teal line right here. Spain is going to get everything west of the line, which y'all might be thinking like, whoa, they got a really good, wow, they got the best of that bargain. All right, Portugal's going to get everything east of the line, but you know, in terms of this treaty, Portugal also is going to have claims in Africa, okay, in Asia. All right, so what's important about this is we're seeing Spain and Portugal really try to solve their problems diplomatically, so a war doesn't break out. That's not necessarily going to work. We're going to see various colonial wars break out a little bit later, and we'll talk about that. But this was an attempt during all this colonization, exploration, and conquest to really solve things um, diplomatically. Okay. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some of the agricultural, social institutions that are going to be rising in New Spain and the Spanish colonies. One of the key institutions that we're going to see when it comes to agriculture is the hacienda. Okay, this is a major rural and agricultural institution of the Spanish colonies. We're going to see these huge estates owned by people born in Spain who are going to travel from Europe to the Americas. Those are called the peninsulares. Okay, or they're owned by people born of Spanish descent in the Americas. So they are Spanish, all right, are born in the Americas, all right, and those are the Creoles, and they own these haciendas, all right, and those are going to be the large estates, plantations where they're cultivating cash crops, all right, very important social and economic institution. Okay, now we're going to see a very specific colonial class system in New Spain and in Portugal as well rise. All right, in this colonial class system, Spain and Portugal will both kind of share this. All right, but I want to talk about more in the context of Spain. All right. At the very top of this colonial class system, you have the Peninsulares, which I just referenced. That's people, Europeans, Spanish, all right, who are born in Europe and come over to the Americas. They're at the top of this system. All right. Below that, you have the Creoles. These are people who are of Spanish descent. All right. They have no indigenous, they have no indigenous blood. All right. But they are, born in the Americas. Below that, we have the mestizos and mulattoes. These are people of mixed heritage. These are people. These are people who are, mixed with European and indigenous. That's a mestizo, all right. Or mulatto, that is someone who is European and African. At the very bottom of this class system, we have the natives and we have the slaves, the African slaves. All right. So really important for us to memorize this colonial class system. Also really important for you to memorize the administrative and political structure of New Spain. Okay, right. You have the monarch. Okay, the viceroys, the audiencias, and the corregidores. Important for us to know these political and social systems that are coming about in the colonial Americas. Okay, especially in the context of the Spanish and Portuguese as well, but mainly Spain. All right. Now, another area that's really important for us to focus on, and I'll go back on the map really quickly, are the West Indies. Let's go back and kind of look at the map real quick. Let's go back. Okay. The West Indies are here. Okay. The Caribbean. Now, I don't want you all to get it confused with the East Indies, which is Southeast Asia. It's not really in this map, it's over here. Okay. But the West Indies are here. Don't get that confused. Know where your East Indies are, know where your West Indies are. Okay, that's very important for us. All right, the West Indies, the Caribbean, Cuba, Puerto Rico, okay, um, uh, is going to be an area where we see a lot of plantations, cash crops, aka cultivating sugar, and lots of slaves are going to be sent here from Africa. All right, um, this is really important for us. And now the West Indies, um, the Caribbean, are going to be not necessarily just owned by Spain or Portugal. We're just going to see Britain getting acquire some territory there. We're going to see territories switch hands, from different countries when we see different wars break out. But what's really important to understand about the West Indies is that this is going to be an area of economic growth. There's going to be lots of um, economics going on there, specifically with sugar, okay, cash crops, and we're going to see uh, um, this be an area of heavy African slavery. Many African slaves are going to be sent there because of sugar, okay? Now, New Spain, ladies and gentlemen, when New Spain was starting with their economic development of the mines and the cash crops, they used natives for labor. But we know, from the diseases in the Columbian Exchange, which I'm going to talk about in our next lecture, um, the Africans are going to be exported in large numbers to the West Indies, to the Spanish colonies as the natives died. Okay, um, so we are going to see the West Indies become a really important part of the colonization of of the New World. Okay, economically, socially, and politically. All right, so the West Indies. All right, now labor, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to see a couple different types of and systems of labor. I want to go through each of them really quickly, just so in case you see, a primary source, a secondary source, a question on the AP exam that kind of references this type of labor, we know what it is. Okay, now the encomienda, all right, is a type of labor that we will see in the Americas in the Age of Exploration, and this is a formal grant of the right of labor to a specific number of Indians. So, a Peninsulare or Creole had the right to 10, 20, 30 indigenous individuals that worked for that specific business or family or person. All right. The repartimiento, I think I said it right, sorry, required adult male Indians to devote a certain number of days of labor annually to Spanish economic enterprises. All right, so an indigenous male had to, there's 365 days a year, had to devote, a certain number of days to peninsulares, creoles, economic enterprises, whether that was agricultural, mining, they had to work for free, all right, which is essentially slavery. We had debt peonage, all right, where you had Indian laborers required to purchase goods from the landowners, and they were forever indebted to them, almost essentially slavery, all right, and then you had African slavery, all right. So some of these different systems of labor, and as we can tell right here, this is exploitation and the complete exploitation of the indigenous and the Africans. Okay, um, clear exploitation and oppression that we're seeing here. All right. Now, something else that I really want to talk about is exploration when it comes to and imperialism when it comes to Africa and Asia. And what we're seeing during this time, and I'm kind of foreshadowing to chapter 17, which we'll talk about in second semester, uh, is that what we're going to be seeing when it comes to Africa and Asia is old imperialism. We're going to see the Europeans as they are colonizing the Americas. They're also going to be going to Africa and Asia, but we're going to see kind of different developments in Africa and Asia. Um, and this is known as old imperialism. And it's characterized by the establishments of kind of coastal regions, posts, trading ports. But we're not going to see Europeans outright conquer areas of Africa and Asia. Now, I want you to, I have my y'all are brilliant students. Um, let's think about why. Why are they not going to outright conquer, Africa and Asia? All right, well, why? Why might that go down? Let's think about it for a second and then talk about it. All right, let's unpause and let's think about this for a second. Number one, okay, and I've kind of alluded to this before, is that, well, the African, the populations of Africa and Asia are immune to many of the diseases that the Europeans are carrying. Okay, they're on the same landmass. They've traded. They've interacted with one another, not on a mass scale, but those diseases in Europe have traveled to Asia and Africa. Okay, the indigenous of the Americas, okay, have largely been separated from Asia, Africa, and Europe for quite a long time, and so they don't have those immunities, but the populations in Africa and Asia do. So they're not going to be severely weakened by that, um, and so they'll be able to fight back on a bigger scale. Also, there in especially for Africa, there is a disease, or there's a disease that the Europeans can't quite overcome in order to go very far inland into Africa, especially, and that is malaria. Okay, that will change later when we talk about modern medicine, modern advances in science. Later on, we'll see the advent of quinine, which will help Europeans kind of deal with mosquitoes and malaria, and we'll see that change in the 1800s. But what's important to understand in Africa and Asia is that the Europeans aren't going to be able to outright conquer these regions and just colonize them and take them over. Okay, um, let's really quickly talk about the Portuguese. All right, they're going to have trading posts in India. They're going to have trading posts in Africa as well, in Guinea, Africa, India. Alfonso de Albuquerque, he's going to be really important for laying the foundations of Portuguese imperialism in some of these various areas of India and Africa. And one of the strategies that we're going to see Portugal really try to pursue is try to control the Indian Ocean, and that would help facilitate better trade with Asia. What's important to understand about the Portuguese, ladies and gentlemen, is they're going to be really important in the early onset of trading, but they're going to get kicked out of Southeast Asia, of the East Indies, by the Dutch. And the Dutch are going to be really, really important for us. The Portuguese are going to kind of go away, and that's because the Dutch are going to kind of take power away from the Portuguese. Um, and we will talk about that. But the Portuguese will be really instrumental in early imperialism, the early age of exploration, but they'll go away pretty quickly. Okay, and let's talk about the Dutch. The Dutch in the Netherlands, don't get them confused with Denmark, the Danes, Danish, Dutch, Netherlands, Danes, Danish. Okay, um, and the Dutch are going to become a major force of imperialism and exploration. And the kind of the entity that I want you to associate with Dutch imperialism and exploration is the Dutch East India Trading Company. Okay, they are going to challenge the Portuguese. They're going to challenge Spain in the New World. Okay, and they're gonna end up controlling a lot of the American and African trade. Okay, they are going to be very powerful. Now, um, you all might be, asking yourselves, wait, why don't we see them become, more of a global power? Well, we're going to see the English. All right, we haven't quite gone to England yet, but the English, the Dutch are going to be quite okay with kind of becoming more of this regional power as opposed to global power. When part of the reason is because they can't really mess with the English, and we'll talk about Spain. Spain and Philip II are going to try to step to the English, but Queen Elizabeth is going to handle them with the Spanish Armada. So um, the Dutch will become a really important force of imperialism and exploration. They're going to challenge the Spanish. They're going to take control of a lot of the territory and a lot of the trading privileges that the Portuguese have, especially in the East Indies. And the Dutch are going to be a really important part of exploration and trade in the 16 and 1700s. Okay. France. Now we're going to see, and I've kind of alluded to this before, some other countries get involved. The Dutch are going to be getting involved as they see the Portuguese and Spanish making a lot of money, okay, in acquiring territory. And the French are going to get involved, and we're going to see Jacques Cartier. He's going to be in search of this northwest passage, this northern route to Asia. Um, and we're going to see the French settle in Quebec or Canada. Let's go back on the map real quick. Let's go back to a map. Okay. What the French were looking for, and here's France kind of right here, is they were looking for this ice-free northwest passage to Asia. Okay. Now, some of the early explorers are going to just kind of run into ice and not make it. But the French were going to kind of go over here, and they're going to go into French Canada up here, all right, and settle here. Okay. All right. And so Quebec, 1608 is going to be France's first settlement. Now, take a look at that date. 1608, Quebec. Take a look at this right here, 1607, Jamestown. The French and English are very much territorial, like I've talked about in the Hundred Years' War, territorial, economic, political rivals. All right, the English are going to settle in the Americas before the French, and the French are going to be like, oh, we need our own colony, so they're going to come right after the English. But the English are going to kind of come into exploration a little bit later. All right. And we're going to see John Cabot. He's going to explore the Northeast United States. The English are really going to have trouble with early exploration, um, partly because they were looking for gold and silver that the Spanish were, acquiring in their territories, but they're not necessarily going to find it in, Virginia where they're landing on the East Coast. And you'll learn more about this next year in APUSH. But it's going to be tobacco and cash crops that's really going to help some of the first, and the help from the natives that helped the first English settlements and colonies really start to rise. The first English settlement is known as Jamestown. That's in modern day Virginia, named after James I, a Stuart king. We're gonna know him. He's a clown. All right, he is not the sharpest tool in the shed. His son Charles is not either. His son Charles is going to end up getting executed. But we're going to see thousands of English come to the East Coast in the 1600s, 1700s. Found the 13 colonies, and we know that eventually will develop into the United States. So yeah, so the English are going to be the English and the French are going to come after we see the Portuguese, Spanish, and the Dutch get involved. Okay, all right, and you can kind of see the various explorers, um, you know, and some of their routes. Okay. All right, you have the English, the French, kind of exploring more of North America. You have the Spanish and Portuguese, more of Middle America, South America. Okay. All right. In in my opinion, it's important for you all to know maybe just one or two explorers from each country. Okay, just kind of name drop in case we have an SAQ or DBQ or LAQ. Okay, but this map provides you with plenty of the explorers. Okay. All right, and because of this, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna see, and this graph kind of shows some of the different colonial rivalries, but also showcases this Atlantic economy. It also is showcasing this new transatlantic economy, and you can see, right, all the raw materials they're going to be going to Europe, the mother countries, and they're going to be producing all these manufactured goods to sell back to the colonies, to sell to other areas of the world. Okay, and in I've been alluding to this before, but that Mediterranean economy just goes away, right? And subsequently, we're going to see Italy really decline. All right, but you can see this new kind of global economy that's really starting to become prominent. Okay, and we associate that with mercantilism, right? But if you're having, this huge global economy start to rise, we're going to start to see conflicts. We're going to start to see wars, and we're actually going to start to see the First World War, right, which will be the 7 Years' War. All right. Yeah, so we're going to see colonial rivalries just kind of spark all over. Portugal is going to have a rival with the Dutch. They lack the numbers and the wealth to dominate trade in the Indian Ocean, and eventually the Dutch will kind of take power away from them. Um, Spain, all right, is going to have some serious problems with England. We're going to see a rivalry there, and England will have serious problems with the French. Um, Important to also know that Spain is going to kind of try to establish a foothold in Asia, all right, and consolidate some territory in the Philippines. The Philippines is going to be very influenced by Spain and Spanish culture. Spain is going to bring lots of their civilization, religion, Catholicism to the Philippines. All right, and like I said before, the Dutch are going to challenge Portugal in the East Indies, and challenge Portugal and Indonesia. All right, let's stop here for today, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about the slave trade in the next lecture and the Columbian Exchange. Thank you so much.